computer. Hare Krishna, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today I'm going to start by, we're going to sing a song that I gave you, the Gitabali, the third song from Gitabali by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And the song speaks about the way of being we're to embody so that we can successfully chant Krishna's name in service. So what we'll do is instead of a call and response, because I don't want to take too much time, you can just sing along. And I'm going to put the song in the chat, but you do have it in your handouts as well. But I'm just doing this in case you can't reach a handout quick enough, and hopefully it's going to accept it all. Okay, it's a little too long. I have to do it in 2 sections. And therefore, that's also too long. Okay, I'm going to do the, I'll have to do the Bengali and then the English. Okay, do that, and then do the English. And I'll just chant, we're just going to go through the song one time. Hopefully it's an easy tune for you to follow. It's a 2-part tune. And if you, it's also too long. Oh, my. And if you can't follow along, then you can just meditate on the English of the verse. So it's starts Sri Krishna Kirtane Yadi. Divino Thakur ki jai. His bhajans are so beautiful and the meanings are very moving. So today we're going to be looking at verses 2 to 4, and again, just to remind you, we're drawing from the commentaries of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and B.R. Sridhardev Goswami. What they've done is they've really brought out the deep meanings of each of Mahaprabhu's verses, and I feel that hearing from them will really help us value the opportunity that we have of chanting the holy names. So before we go to verse 2, I just want to quickly refresh our memory about the circumstances when Mahaprabhu spoke these verses. This was toward the end of his manifest presence. He had experienced what he came to experience as a devotee of Krishna, and he was now in full knowledge of how the process of Nam Sankirtan works for sadhakas like us. So at this point in his Leela, he's getting ready to leave us, and he wants to bless us and empower us with his experience. With this intent, he speaks these Siksastakam verses to his closest associates, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. They had both consoled the Lord at night, every night, throughout the night, singing songs and reciting verses from the Shastra that they felt reflected or augmented the mood that Mahaprabhu was feeling. And they also recounted Krishna's Leelas to Gora as he experienced deep feelings of separation from Krishna. And in response, in exchange to this, but with these devotees, he told them what he was feeling, and that's what has come out in these verses. So the Siksastakam is filled with the feelings that arose in Mahaprabhu's heart. And by hearing them, we get an understanding of the nature of the chanting process. It feels like he's lit a bright torch to show us our way. So the topmost perfection of life is to attain exclusive love for Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is the super soul of all existence. And it is Siksastaka that is training us in the method and the mood. Now, some of the commentators have suggested, and we've probably heard this before, that we ornament ourselves with these verses as if wearing them as a necklace around our necks. Each verse is a valuable pearl in the necklace, which can beautify and bless our attempt to make Krishna happy, to serve him. And as we've heard, the chanting of the holy names is the best service. It's really a most intimate service. And not only by chanting are we engaged in that service, but by exchanging with the holy name will reveal all other services to us in due course, including the ultimate services that we have in Krishna's personal association. So let's pray to have these realizations revealed in our hearts and bless our chanting service. So let's go and read verse 2. I'm going to read the Sanskrit and the English, but not the word-for-word translation, and you can follow along with me. Hopefully you have your handout there you can look at. Nam Namakari Bahudad Nijasarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamitak Smaranena Kala Etadrishi Tabakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrisham Iha Janina Nuraga. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all of your transcendental energies, and they're not even hard and fast rules for chanting them. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. So we might be able to relate to that sentiment. We're chanting, but we know that we're not chanting with the full affection. So this verse elaborates on Cheto Darpana Marjanam in the first verse, which means that the holy name cleanses the heart. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that the heart is completely covered by 3 impurities. One is the desire to lord it over matter. Another is the godless attitude of being the sole enjoyer and or the renouncer of the fruits of one's actions. And that's interesting, right? One of the contaminations is to be a renouncer, which means that we have nothing to renounce. We think we have something and therefore renounce, but we don't even have something to renounce. So we're not even a godless enjoyer or a renouncer. And the third he describes is atheism, which form a sheath. He describes it as a sheath that covers the mirror of consciousness. And this sheath is the reason why we reject our true nature as a jiva, which is to serve Krishna. Krishna's holy name alone can free the consciousness of these impurities. I mean, other spiritual paths make an attempt, but repeatedly we hear in sacred texts that it is really only by the holy name, that it's only by direct association with Swarup Shakti, with Krishna directly, that this is possible. Now, how long does it take to clear the mirror? Well, it depends on the seriousness of our practice and how thick the layer of dust is on our mirror. So, for instance, like if we have a thick black dust, like a tamas covering, that's going to require more time to clean than a fine white sattva dust. And that's why all the forms of yoga practice, they recommend that we adopt a lifestyle influenced by sattva, which is what Yadunath brought up last week. And the Bhagavad Gita describes sattvic ways of being for us to learn about and then bring into our lives. So we can refer to the Gita. It speaks about different aspects of qualities or ways of being or thoughts and behaviors that are sattvic, rajas, and tamasic. And so we can look to the sattvic ones and see how that might apply, throughout all aspects of our lives. And the more we align with sattvic ways of being, the easier our spiritual project will be. And as our heart becomes cleansed, our vision becomes sharper, more accurate, more precise. What we couldn't see or couldn't understand becomes self-evident as our knowing becomes rooted in reality or truth. So here, Sri Chaitanya reveals that all of Krishna's energies, all of them, dwell within his name. We heard about this before. And the name, as we know, is known as Nama Rupa Avatar, or Krishna in his descent from the spiritual world as his name. So he's fully present and all the powers are found in his name. And for this reason, we hear that Krishna's name, the sound of Krishna's name, is absolute sound. There's relative sound and absolute sound. Relative sound is different from what is named. So, for instance, when I say mango, the word mango is not identical with the mango. It's a word that indicates a mango. I can't eat or taste the mango by saying the word mango, mango. I can say it as much as I want. I'm never going to taste it. However, the transcendental sound of Krishna's name is absolute sound. When we call his name, he's right there. Hare Krishna. There he is, right with us, right now. He's present with us. In the Bhagavatam, Krishna says, this is from the 6th canto, he says that he is the form of the transcendental vibrations like Omkar and Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. And he says, I am the supreme absolute truth. And he says, these two forms of mine, namely the transcendental sound and the eternal blissful spiritual form of the deity, are my eternal forms. They are not material. So it's always good to refresh this because we forget so easily, and the more we hear, the more we develop trust and faith and conviction and determination to keep on going with our chanting. So here Gauranga says that Krishna has unlimited names, and by pointing out the names Krishna and Govinda, he's letting us know which names connect us to the person Krishna. There are direct names of God and there are indirect names of God. And we want to chant or call out to the direct names of God, which he pays attention to more readily because they're addressing him personally. So I'll give you an example. A secondary name of God is the word God. God refers to a supreme being or one who gives life. This doesn't really tell us much about the person. It's a generic name. Another generic name could be Ishwara, or the supreme controller. or Paramatma, the overseer, or Brahman, the impersonal one. So when we have these indirect names, we get some idea about maybe some quality of the Supreme, but they leave us with little ability to connect with the person. So the direct names of Krishna, such as Shyam, Hari, Govinda, Gopal, Yashoda Dulal, Radhika Raman. We can think of so many beautiful names in Vraja Leela. They capture Krishna's attention with our call of love because we're calling him, the person. That person who lives in Vraja and relates with these various names that remind him of his identity in Vraja. So, indirect or secondary names just don't offer the same benefit of developing a personal relationship with Krishna, and therefore aren't able to also award us pure love of God. So that's why we're advised by chanting the Mahamantra, we make a connection with Krishna, the son of Yashoda and Nanda, the lover of Sri Radha, and the friend of Subal and Sri Dham. So that Krishna of Vrindavan is where we are taken by embracing the Mahamantra. And his other primary names that we just talked about, Govinda, the protector of the cows, Gopijana Vallabha, the beloved of the gopis, or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Yashoda, they are all primary names for Krishna that call to him. Another thing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says here, there are no hard and fast rules for chanting. So when I think about chanting, I think about the three broad ways we chant. We chant meditatively in a daily Nam Japa Seva practice for a certain number of rounds or a certain amount of time every day. And we can chant anywhere, any time in between what we're doing or while we're performing certain activities. Or we can participate in group kirtan of the holy name. And all of these are equally powerful, and there's no cost. No one is barred from any type of chanting. Everyone is equally able to receive the highest benefits that Mahaprabhu speaks about in his Siksastakam. Everything that he speaks about in the Siksastakam applies to any of the ways that we chant Krishna's holy names. Now, when we should understand, though, when Mahaprabhu describes the 7 transcendental glories of the holy name here in the Siksastakam, and he expresses the amazing effects that he's experienced or promises that we will experience, that he's speaking about Shuddhanam, or the pure name. There are 3 stages of chanting. In the first stage, we commit offenses while chanting. And we'll talk briefly about the offenses shortly, but I just want to go through the 3 stages first. The next stage is called Namabhasa, or chanting the shadow of the name. At that time, our offenses have almost stopped, and we're coming closer to the platform of pure chanting. And in the 3rd stage, when we chant the Mahamantra without offense, our dormant love for Krishna immediately awakens. As soon as we begin to chant pure holy name, immediately Bhava and Prema will awaken in our hearts. So we'll know by that result when we've begun chanting Krishna's pure holy name. So what are the effects of these earlier types of chanting? Chanting offensively will not destroy sins, and our progress will be delayed. Offenses obstruct our connection with Krishna. If we chant with offenses, we displease the name, who is a person and has feelings. So we can chant for a long time with offenses without experiencing results. So we really want to be careful about offenses, although it takes some time for us to chant without offenses. But as we begin to practice not offending the name, we come to the stage called Nambas, and then we have a significant improvement in our chanting. Then even though our chanting is without complete devotion or complete freedom from offenses, those offenses won't be deliberate, and therefore that's when we're inadvertently maybe committing offenses, or sometimes being inattentive, that namabhas, even if we're partially distracted or in ignorance, it starts cleansing the heart, removing the samskaras, reducing the karma. So even though it's a dim reflection of the pure name, it carries tremendous potency. It can destroy all the accumulated karma. And even if it doesn't, so even if it'll destroy all the accumulated karma, even if it doesn't completely uproot all the unwanted things in the heart. So Haridas Thakur described in that one incident in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that even just Nam Abbas chanting can grant liberation from samsara. And what it is a stepping stone to Shuddha Nam, because it's fostering purification, and we're gradually eliminating offenses. So we start Nam Aparad, try to avoid fences, become sincere, and try to develop devotion. We progress to Nam Bas and then on to Shuddha Nam. So obviously, in chanting the pure names means all offenses have stopped, and at that point we are chanting in a humble mood of surrender. Staying in the company of devotees also will strengthen our resolve and devotion, which is a significant aid in us beginning to chant the pure name of Krishna. So, by chanting Shuddha Nam, the heart becomes completely pure, and then pure love of God rises in us and shows us our eternal form. And that Shuddha Nam allows us to directly experience Krishna's presence. So we should talk just briefly, I don't want to spend too much time, but just briefly about the offenses. We know there's 10 of them, and we should become familiar with them and go over, we can't go over them all tonight, but I'm going to loosely break them down into two categories, the way I kind of see them. We can, I think they kind of fit into two places. Either we can offend the names because we don't have enough knowledge, or our heart is contaminated. So if we don't have enough philosophical understanding about the name and its characteristics, or why it's powerful and what the goal is, we could take the process of chanting cheaply and become lazy or inattentive. So this is the reason why we want to regularly hear the sacred texts and hear from devotees teaching the philosophy. It's imperative, really, that our chanting be informed by the philosophy. Perhaps sometimes I've heard this maxim, I don't know if you've heard it, it says, philosophy without practice is speculation. It means really it's not going to take you very far. And practice without philosophy is fanaticism. So it could be also that practice without philosophy won't lead you very deep into the chanting. The two really have to go hand in hand. Hearing Krishna's Leelas and the philosophical foundations of Bhakti, both of these nurture and inspire our practice. And without both, our hearts could dry up and we may even start our practice. So we are advised to ground ourselves in knowledge, and then our tendency to be lazy or inattentive will wane because we start understanding more and more about the transcendental nature of the holy name, the power of the name, what is the potential we have by connecting with the holy name, by chanting the pure holy name. And this will illuminate our hearts. So the other category of offenses, in my mind, comes from the contamination of the heart. So, for instance, if we're distracted while chanting, that's a symptom that we suffer from material attachments and desires. In other words, if we can't focus on the name, we have an unhealthy condition of the heart. So the solution to our spiritual illness is to chant without offenses. Now, one of the major offenses, and the easiest one for most of us to make, is to criticize others who are chanting the holy names. It's one of the most grievous transgressions we can make, but it's really the easiest one that we fall prey to. Humans just have a tendency to find fault with others, but Krishna doesn't take kindly to us if we criticize people who are working to purify themselves by chanting his holy names. He truly loves those who are dedicated to him. No matter how far along they are on the path, they may make mistakes, they may be faulty in so many ways, but they are endeavoring to connect with Krishna, and he loves his chanters. So that's all to say that there's an intimate relationship between the name, Krishna, and those who chant the name. So criticism of saintly people, and that refers to anyone seriously attempting to love God, even if they aren't fully realized in their heart, is very detrimental to us. So if we want the creeper of love to grow in our heart without poisoning this garden we're trying to cultivate with our own malice toward others, we'll really check that. I know that sometimes it's easy for us to check speaking it or acting in ways that may be offensive, but the offenses may be in the mind. We really want to try to curb that also, and it is possible. And it starts by watching the thoughts where they go, and just not going to places where we're thinking ill of another person. So another one is, as we progress in bhakti, we'll accept a guide or a guru, and we'll be attentive to follow their instructions so that we may rapidly move to the pure chanting of the names. And of course, we know that one offense is to be inattentive. So I've found for myself, and maybe you also, that to overcome this offense, it's really helped me to imagine how Krishna feels by being neglectfully called. And it's not really hard, because if I'm talking to someone and they start ignoring me, it's very disconcerting. So he shows up and we're absent. What is he to do? He's not going to be inclined to us. Maybe he will stay distant. So we can try to always remember, Krishna is a person. He is a person with feelings. He is present with us when we call out to them. Right here with us, he is there. Sometimes I think of Krishna observing me as I chant. Like, I imagine, what is he seeing? What is he feeling? What do I want him to see in me? What do I want him to hear from me? And this will help me focus more on the holy name and the sound and what I'm trying to convey to him by my chanting. So the more we endeavor to personalize our chanting and check these offenses, the more we'll be able to approach the name with respect, care, and focus. So let's not bring our own misfortune on us by not taking the names with all seriousness. As we go on hearing, we develop an appreciation for the incredible wealth of the holy names. And when we see that wealth before us and understand that we're not taking full advantage of the gift that we're being offered, we're remorseful, and this remorse can inspire us to redouble our efforts. So we shouldn't stay here too long, but it's good to feel that remorse. The chanter will think, oh Lord, I'm hopeless, I have material desires, I have a wrong idea of what is valuable, what is beauty, what is truth. I continually project value onto things that just simply have no value. I have no love for you. I create difficulty where there is none. I am simply unfortunate for these reasons. And so here, Mahaprabhu is showing us this lament. He says, I don't have attachment, but the chanting, I'm in an unhealthy state. And he's bearing his heart to his two devotee friends and saying, basically, what to do. This is so lamentable. So hearing his lament, if we really sit with it and we understand the extent of the mercy we've received from the name, really we should be moved to tears. Mercy has come to us, even though we're not qualified. We've received unimaginable kindness. And what do? We remain distant and distracted. This nasty contamination of the heart is so very regrettable. So this verse speaks to us about where we are right now as sadhakas in our practice. And I've heard one teacher use the example, describes how it's to get to where you want to go, it's important to know where you are first. Like if you go on a hiking trail or you go to a mall or something like that, you'll find there's a map there and it'll say, this is where you are here. And then you look on the map where your destination is, where you want to go. So then you know your path. You identify, here I am, this is where I want to go, this is where these are the steps I need to take. So Sri Chaitanya here is telling us, we're here. We're in a lamentable condition, not fully appreciating the gift that we have, but we received it. We just need to pay attention now. So Mahaprabhu is demonstrating which emotions should follow this awareness of where I am. When we see how much we're lacking, we become humble. And it's very important that humility accompany us at each stage of bhakti. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Krishna becomes the chanter's property. Therefore, inestimable grace comes from Krishna's side. He makes himself ours. So this very realization will take us to humility, which is further described in verse 3. We have a relationship with the infinite. We need to empty ourselves and withdraw from the egoistic world. When we come to understand, I have nothing, I have no qualifications, then we're making spiritual progress because we're becoming more aware of reality. So let's go to verse 3. I'll read again the Sanskrit and the English. Let's try to meditate on the meaning and the feeling that Mahaprabhu is conveying here. Trinadapi sunichena toror api sahishnuna manina manadena kirtaniya sada hari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And of course, that's our goal. We want to come to the stage of chanting constantly the holy name. And we learned that the way to do that is by developing these saintly qualities. So this verse is an elaboration on the phrase Bhava Maha Davagni in the first verse, which, as we learned, means putting out the fire of material existence. And it correlates with the sadhana stage called Nishta, or firm faith. So we talked a little bit about a forest fire last week. There are 3 ways one can be extinguished. A fire is extinguished if it runs out of fuel, if humans can successfully intervene, or if there's a downpour of rain. So in contrast, the fire of material existence will not run out of fuel because there's no end to karma, and there's no question of us intervening with divine laws. So it's only the rain clouds produced by the pure holy names that will put out the fire of the suffering of repeated birth and death and end our cycle of karma. Now, when we arrive at Nishta, we are chanting without offenses. And when we reach this stage, then we're adorned with these four beautiful qualities. These four beautiful qualities express the qualities of the sadhaka when they have achieved nishta. This is speaking about nishta. So without humility, tolerance, pridelessness, respect for others, along with attentive chanting, there will be no prema. So these qualities are absolute prerequisites. Now, at nishta, the fire of material existence has been extinguished, which means that the cravings and distractions of material desires are largely over. Yet, so the fire is put out, but when a fire is put out, there's still smoke. It takes a little time for the smoke to dissipate, right? So the residual smoke at nishta refers to minor or passing thoughts or tendencies that arise for the sadhaka still. But these don't disturb or distract the devotee. The devotee doesn't feel a pull toward them. They just pass by, and therefore the sadhaka's practices remain fixed. So that it comes into their awareness, but it just doesn't move them, affect them like it used to. Now, nishta is really an important interim goal for us. If our aim is prema, we might become discouraged because that goal seems so far away and we're so unqualified. But we can first focus our attention on achieving nishta. Prema is always going to be our goal, it's our ultimate goal. But our interim goal as sadhakas can be nishta because attaining nishta is a more reachable goal for us. If we set our sights at nishta, which comes right after the anartha nivritti stage, it'll help us kind of persevere through the cleansing stage, which is challenging and one of the longer stages. It helps us to gain determination. Like if I can just stay the course through an anartha nivritti, I come to nishta, and then I'm on solid ground. Being moved from nishta is very unlikely. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. So when we fix ourselves in nishta, our forward progress it's more secure. So if we fix our sights here and really seriously engage in the practice, aiming at nishta, I think this is really an important possibility for us to enthuse us and to give us determination. Now, it's described when we achieve nishta, it's really important to pay attention to the subtle ego or the pride that remains. This is the most dangerous remaining condition for the practitioner. The devotee might be proud of his or her spiritual progress or some minor spiritual achievements. You know, when we make spiritual progress, they seem significant. They are significant in a lot of ways, but they're insignificant when we compare them to the goal. So we shouldn't become distracted. I mean, obviously we should acknowledge and be happy about them, but we shouldn't be distracted. We'll carefully work to remove all traces of pride. Without doing this, this is the only way the devotee could possibly lose ground in her bhakti. Pride is the hidden enemy. It's our very worst enemy. And when all anarthas are finally removed in nishta, pride could still remain. So let's remember to be on the lookout for this. And therefore, Mahaprabhu is pointing us to the work and the hidden danger. The importance of this, as I have tried to state, is not something to be made light of. Now, one thing is really interesting. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that if he were to distill all of his instructions on bhakti into one verse, it would be this one. That's quite a statement, right? Not only all instructions are right here in this verse. If we only had this verse, we would have the essence of Mahaprabhu's guidance for us. So let's take careful note. Our progress is dependent on developing genuine humility, tolerance, respect for everything and everyone, and to be free of the desire for receiving honor for ourselves. Now, if you think about these qualities, you'll begin to realize pretty quickly that they'll all automatically appear if we're genuinely humble, if we accept our position as small and dependent beings. We'll be able to tolerate the dualities of the material world. If we're humble, we'll show proper respect to everyone and everything. If we're humble, we won't desire honor. In other words, humility removes pride and arrogance, and that clears the mind and opens it for receiving wisdom. So humility is really the root of developing all these qualities. Therefore, we'll sincerely endeavor to develop humility by regularly acknowledging our smallness and our eternal positions as servants of Krishna. We can remind ourselves daily, perhaps before going to bed at night, or upon awakening, or when we sit down for a meal. We might like to think of a time. What's a good time that on a daily basis I can take a minute to pause and remember who I am in relationship to Krishna, so I reinforce this conception: I am a servant of Krishna. I am a servant of Krishna's devotees. It's really quite helpful when you just take a second to do that on a daily basis. Mahaprabhu is very attracted to the humility of his devotees. And I want to read this one quote that he spoke to Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar as he was speaking about the Siksastakam. So I'm going to read, quote, "Although Vaishnavas are advanced, they think themselves to be lower than blades of grass, and they tolerate everything like trees. As a tree is cut down, it does not protest, and while dying in the heat, it does not request a drink. It gives its wealth, its shade, fruits, and flowers to anyone who asks, even while tolerating the heat and rain and simultaneously protecting others. Although Vaishnavas are exalted, they are free of pride and offer everyone appropriate respect, knowing that all jivas rest within Krishna. Aspiring in this way, one who chants Krishna's name attains shelter at his lotus feet and awakens prema." End quote. So one thing is, real humility is a willingness to learn and grow. And this is the attitude that propels us rapidly forward, because we'll welcome all opportunities, even if they're challenging. So we're talking about the importance of humility in our Bhakti project. But what is genuine humility? Humility is not just modesty. It's not self-deprecation or low self-esteem. It's not shame-based. It's not insecurity. It's not being unassertive. What humility is a deep sense of our identity as infinitesimal sparks of spirit, eternal servants of Krishna who are protected by him. And when we align ourselves with our true identity by remembering this and acting on this, then Krishna empowers us. So humility is a state of dependence and empowerment. The infinitesimal is trying to approach the infinite. And as we get closer, we're humbled as we begin to realize our true size and utter dependence. So in other words, humility is a natural outcome of understanding. It's not forced. This is not something that's just forced. It naturally arises in us as an outcome of understanding that we are completely dependent on Krishna. And that's not a negative thing. It's a happy state. It's like standing under the shade of a masa sequoia, and feeling our smallness, but feeling accepted in our place, or standing peacefully as we gaze out to like a vast, deep ocean. We feel small, but it's a good feeling. And this humility, it comes from the soul proper. That's why it's so natural. It comes from the soul proper as the heart is becoming purified. And when we do this, we become open for grace to descend. So dependence, that means, is actually power, because it calls grace to us. Krishna comes to me. All I have to do is not oppose him. If I resist, I block grace and the development of prema. Now, there's an interesting understanding about the relationship between humility and prema, which Sanatana Goswami gives us in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. He says that humility is an integral component of prema. Love and humility share a symbiotic relationship. And it is Sanatana Goswami who says that love is the mother of sheer humility. So what this implies is, as our love deepens, our humility grows, and vice versa. He wrote, when humility fully matures, prema unfolds without limit. In other words, without utter humility, pure love will never arise. As humility increases, prema increases. As prema increases, humility increases. They're inseparable. So why is this? It's because prema expands without limit. It is ever evolving, ever expanding. The more you love, the more you feel that you could love so much more. It's the nature of love to be ever increasing. So when you see how much you love, and when you see how much love you have, and how much more you could have, the love you do have seems like nothing. And that's humbling. So that's why it is so important to develop humility, so that love, real pure love, will awaken in the heart. And obviously, when with humility, we easily align with Krishna's will. Sometimes it's difficult to accept what is in our life, or what comes to us. But with some humility and understanding our dependence and our smallness, it becomes easier, and then he'll use us as instruments and engage us in personal service. And perhaps you've experienced, but there's really no greater happiness than rendering the service Krishna has chosen for us, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. It's like, I don't know if you had the experience, but you might say something or do something that helps somebody, and you just get the impression that Krishna used me in his service, and it's so gratifying, so satisfying to be used by Krishna in some way that we can be of service. So one of the things I also wanted to speak about is, well, I've already spoken about it, but the seemingly negative stance of humility has the power to attract. So it's like a negative magnet will attract a positive negative magnet. So Krishna is like a grand positive magnet, and if we take a quote negative stance of humility, it attracts the sweet absolute and goddess Radha to us. And so obviously developing humility is a challenge, and becoming humble in earnest is a major milestone on our spiritual path. But as chanters, we should rest assured that the holy names will gradually qualify us for further states of realization, and that will be ornamented by these beautiful symptoms of holiness. So let's go to our last verse today, verse 4. I'll also read the Sanskrit and the English, and you can follow along. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir ahurtiki twayi. Mahaprabhu says, O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth I don't desire beautiful women or any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So this verse is an elaboration on the phrase Shreya Kairuva Chandrika Vitaranam, and this speaks about how the chanting is so auspicious that it brings us to the highest achievement. And this verse corresponds with the next stage of sadhana bhakti, which is known as ruchi, comes after nishta. And what characterizes ruchi, what is distinctive about ruchi, is that the chanter develops a strong taste and desire to engage in the practices of bhakti. And ruchi, we will not be held back from hearing and chanting. It's become our lifeline at that point. So in ruchi, we're ascending to higher states of consciousness and purity. We're getting much closer to the ultimate goal. The fire of samsara has been extinguished. We feel great relief under the cooling rays of the full moon. We become fixed in our bhakti position in nishta. And then in ruchi, we begin to experience the real happiness of the Atma. We're coming under the shelter of Krishna's internal energy. The Srup Shakti of Krishna is making ingress into us. So in nishta, we became fixed in the practices. In ruchi, we're developing a taste for them. We're so attached to hearing and chanting about Krishna that we can't give it up. Nothing can separate us from our bhakti practices, which at this stage don't feel like practices anymore. Neither desires, nor ill health, nor attachments, or relationships, no obstacle can keep us from loving devotional service, which has become our very life breath. And at this point, we have no separatist desires, so there's no longer a pull away from Krishna. Our full focus is on him. And therefore, the devotee can sacrifice everything for Krishna and says, I have no interest for anything. Everything is just given and drawn to Krishna. And with this mood, we'll gradually see the dawn, very soon, the dawn of pure bhakti. What was medicine, just dutifully, we're chanting. Maybe many days we don't experience any taste, and it's dry, we're unattentive, we're trying, going back and forth, attempting. We're taking the medicine, but now it's pure nectar, it's food. We chant because we want to. We have to simply chant. One thing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about the holy name, he says it's the sweetest of the sweet, the most auspicious among that which is auspicious. And among, ruchi has 4 types of auspiciousness that Rupa Goswami speaks about in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, let's see, the wise say that from bhakti 4-fold auspiciousness arises. The natural ability to please all people, the ability to attract everyone's affection, to possess all good qualities, and to be in a condition of happiness. So in ruchi, Sharanagati, or complete surrender to Krishna, is fully in place. And as we heard before, surrender is the most important component for approaching Krishna. Our humility has been growing and deepening, and this fuels our desire to surrender. It gives us the ability to surrender. And as a feeling humble becomes prominent, we pray intensely for pure devotion, and now our prayers are being answered, and great longing is taking over our heart. And when that longing comes, what do? We want to say goodbye to Paramatma, and we want to place Krishna in our heart. We want Krishna to take the place of Paramatma. And now, in ruchi, our prayers are capturing Krishna's personal attention. So when we chant with this real attachment and taste, pure bhakti is stimulated in our hearts, and then we're able to chant the pure holy name. We're freed from all the ulterior motives, And we're just attached to bhakti itself, and without any other desire than to please Krishna. So what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say here? He's elaborating on the stage of Ruchi. He says, I only want you. He has no taste for companionship, followers, honor, wealth. Nothing holds his attention at all. The trivia of mundane literature or compositions or mundane knowledge, they're all just rejected. And if these higher knowledges are rejected, we can just imagine that he's also rejecting lower forms of expression that we find in social media and all types of mundane drama and news. He says, I don't want anything of this world. I don't even want to be liberated. I'll stay here if you like. I only seek to serve you and remember you. Grant me this, please. So, all the hints we receive from the various verses through the application to certain stages of bhakti can be applied to us where we are. In other words, what we're hearing about nishta or ruchi or later asakti, bhava, prema, when we hear the Mahaprabhu's mood or his desires, we can make a prayer to achieve those states even before we reach those states. So it's not that you just have to wait for ruchi to say, Krishna, I want to give you everything. I'm unfortunate, please help me, right? Now, by saying Janmani, Janmanishwari, the Lord isn't referring to an ordinary birth. He's talking about a birth in which we can remember the lotus feet of the Lord. That kind of body, that kind of birth is desirable. So, we'll live aside all desires for the full range of human experience and instead ache only for a loving relationship with the beloved wherever we find ourselves. And we'll engage with the world and others in a manner representing Krishna. In other words, our thoughts and actions become completely centered on pleasing Him. I control my mind and only think thoughts of ways I can be of service, and therefore actions will automatically follow, because our actions follow thoughts, as we know. So, loving service is the principal symptom of bhakti, as we know, and freedom from personal desires is an attendant symptom of pure bhakti. It arises automatically, it's not something that's artificial. These attendant symptoms, they flow naturally in ruchi as we become more involved in loving service. And every day we'll ask, my dear Lord, how can I serve you today? How can I serve you today? We can choose to begin every day with this petition, this inquiry, and we'll find that we receive answers more often than not. So let's think of ways we can look for opportunities, and thinking like this, we will come to see ourselves in our true position as Krishna's service. One of the things also that is indicated here in this verse, in my mind, is that the petition is without any hypocrisy. It's with the utmost sincerity. So the chanter is coming to the point where it's completely true. I do not want anything but prema. I'm ready to give my whole self to achieve this supreme ideal. And this sentiment is fueled by our intensifying desire to achieve the goal we've set our heart on. It's not a superficial desire, it's not wishful thinking, it's the stage of chanting that indicates we're becoming released from the grip of the material modes of nature. And the natural spiritual joy and security and wisdom that begin to shine forth from our soul as we enter this stage makes us fully capable of completely turning our back on the world's false promises. The glitter and charm of this world just lose all power. And then the chanter is experiencing that the soul's joy and security and wisdom that come from her source, who possesses these to a superlative degree. So then we find real rest here. We found our home here. So chanting the holy names awakens our relationship with Krishna, who's the source of the spiritual and material creations and our very self. And we experience a far greater measure of happiness and contentment in his shelter. So at this point, all that we held dear just seems insignificant now. It just has no meaning. And what a position of freedom, what a position of relief, what a position of peacefulness, contentedness, satisfaction. Okay, so we've run out of time. Let's chant for 5 minutes today, also like before. And I'm gonna again, I'll read to you a little meditation for taking us on a journey with the holy name. So we can begin to ready ourselves to chant. Perhaps you'd like to take a deep breath in and out several times, or at least a nice deep one. And as we breathe, we can become present to the possibility that we can let go of all distractions. Just let them all go. We might feel gratitude for the opportunity to connect with Krishna through chanting. You desire a genuine connection. And this gives rise to a pure petition in your heart. Oh Krishna, how can I serve you? You might visualize yourself in your natural position as Krishna's eternal servant who is ready to give him pleasure. And perhaps a desire for a loving connection will rise and align with your chanting. And silently we can affirm, I desire nothing but prema. I offer my whole self to achieve this ideal. So let's begin chanting Hare Krishna, remembering that Krishna is non-different from his name. He will be right here with us right now. And we take up a mood of offering ourselves completely and asking how to be of service, and we can allow each repetition of the holy name to flow into our hearts. So let's chant. I'm going to set a little timer here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Oh Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Oh Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, So whenever you like, you can come back. Hare Krishna. Would you like to come back? Does anyone want to share any experience, any takeaways, have any questions, discuss something?
Hare Krishna. You made a statement there that's welcome back. And I thought, well, I never went anywhere. So that's the difference between my chanting and yours.
Hare Krishna. Well, yeah, I mean, some moments we'll find that we go there. And, you know, even if we don't perceive it, we are going there. If we are even just one name, hearing one name, we are there with Krishna, and there are imperceptible things happening to us when we chant, and it's accumulative, really. So for a long time we may not, you know, see a change in our chanting, but as we continue, it will be seen. It might take a while, and some of the changes, some of the differences in our chanting will be subtle at first, but it is an accumulative process, and we'll start experiencing the shifts, even if it's momentary. That means it's a shift. Even if it's a momentary shift, that's good. You're going to build on those moments. All we have to do is keep on going. Is that all right? Gopinath's iPhone. I don't know what your name is.
Hare Krishna.
Casey, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I was hearing you share about like how I was understanding it was that getting to chant is so precious and like it's such a rare and valuable gift, and that was like creating a little bit of gratitude in me, and it felt like that gratitude was like a bridge to humility somehow.
Wow. Yes, yes. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
What was it when you felt that? What can you express anything else? You, in other words, you had some kind of insight. How about the feeling that was associated with that?
Yeah, it felt like you described like a feeling of smallness, but also a feeling of being like taken care of.
Safe,
Oh, yeah.
safe. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Keep on building on that. Keep on going there. Yadanath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you for another wonderful class. Got a double dose of you today. I listened to your class on women.
Oh,
Is that allowed to do that? Is that okay?
yeah. I mean, I actually only made it public a few hours ago, but yeah, I haven't announced it, but yeah, it's fine. I hope it was okay. A lot of technical difficulties in that. Well, how do you go?
It was fine. It was really great class, and so was this. Thank you. It's an interesting paradox almost. I mean, when we chat offensively, then we're actually doing damage to ourselves, right?
I'm not sure I can completely answer that properly. What I was explaining, the Acharyas were saying is that chanting offensive is not going to remove sin, and it's going to slow our progress. But we have to start somewhere, so it must be helping us in some way. But we just need to start becoming aware of those offenses, of what the offenses are, becoming aware and stopping them. And then pretty soon we're really coming to the Namabas stage, because we're educated about the holy name, what we need to be trying to do, and we're making a sincere endeavor. So yeah, there's offenses will slip in, but yeah, I don't think we can say that nothing is happening or we're doing damage. Like I said, that's what I read when I was reading the Acharya's commentaries, how they described it.
Okay, because the paradox seems to be, that the offensive chanting is a negative, but of course, the panacea is more chant.
Right.
So I was wondering if you can say anything about how it is that we're just not digging ourselves in deeper to the negative, or is it just a matter of intention? Just by dint of our positive intention, that's what lifts us, maybe.
Yeah, because Krishna's not one that is really attached to rules and regulations. He's looking for the heart. He's looking for the motive. He's looking for the intent. And here I am. I'm placing myself. My mind. I have a contaminated heart. I cannot focus on the name, no matter how hard I try. But I'm trying, and I want. And Krishna's going to help. It's going to take time, because we have to repeatedly, regularly, and consistently show him that we're sincere and we're trying. That's where that's where we kind of like slip up, is frustration or not paying attention. Anyway, just getting absorbed carried away by the material energy. But yeah, the intention is carrying us forward. Krishna's carrying us forward through the intent, where the heart is. Where the heart is, he's responding to that. I mean, I think it's Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas. When I read this, I was just like, wow, this is so beautiful, because he describes that the devotee doesn't develop these qualities on their own. It's not like we're going to sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to be humble and I'm going to be prideless and tolerant. No, these qualities come. Krishna gives them to the devotee. They come from Krishna. They don't come from us. They come from Krishna, as he's helping us. He's reciprocating with our endeavor, and gradually we're, getting experience like Casey just experienced, that insight, that feeling, and then we grow that and we grow it. So, it's not artificial. We can't do things artificial. We should try. I mean, it's not like we don't try either. I'm not saying that. But we should realize that these are all gifts from Krishna. We just need to put ourselves in a position of receiving the gifts, really. We just want to receive the gifts. Make ourselves ready to receive the gifts. And humility is a great quality to develop for that. And I think it's really important, I did make this point, but I didn't dwell on it. Humility isn't, it's not a poor psychological response to life or ourselves. It's not self-loathing. It's not just only a servile attitude. I mean, the humility could look like a powerful preacher who is completely confident in the words of their spiritual master and the Shastra and speaking powerfully. That can be, sorry, something just came up that was weird. Okay. Yeah. Is that okay, Yadanath?
Yeah, great, thank you.
It said, Deb put in the chat, she said, let's see, do I recall that the Gita says that no effort is ever lost or not accepted? It's, yes, you're remembering almost perfectly. It says that no effort in bhakti is ever lost. Efforts in yoga or other practices can be lost because they're not shifting us at our core. But any activity of bhakti can never be lost. So it's very, very powerful. Anything that we do in bhakti remains with us eternally. Now, if we're offensive, it might go like underground for a while and then resurface later when we've kind of like lived through the offenses, paid karmic reaction for those offenses. But it'll rise again. Nadia Kumar, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mahatma.
Hare Krishna.
So I was just thinking like offensive chanting, like loss in profit. So we get something, but it is not like whatever potential profit we get. So it is loss because we are meant to get more profit, but it is loss. But still it is profit.
Nice, thank you. Nice. Osea. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for
Krishna.
the class.
Thank you.
I was just thinking about this point you made about the devotees. Like sometimes there's groups of devotees that I feel more attracted to, or my heart feels more at home with than other groups, and I try to just stand back. Well, that's natural, because Krishna has a place for everybody. But then sometimes I feel like I do feel some resentment about like, well, why don't? Well, because basically I used to be like more living with a group of devotees who I felt very held by, and now I don't live in a place where I have that same relationship. So then I feel kind of frustrated, but then I feel guilty, and then that guilt doesn't help connect anymore, so like I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about that, as like how to avoid that offense, because then it's hard to not start feeling like critical,
You can't connect with them in some way. Yeah, well, I think it's just, it's just a matter of the way we're wired. Some people we connect with and some people we don't. And I'm reminded of, I think is it Rupa Goswami, he describes that we should associate with like-minded devotees that we feel safe with and can reveal our minds to and develop friendships with, and who are also a little more advanced. So here you are, you're in a situation where that's not coming to you, so it's harder, but then you just you take that, you have a need, right? You had it was a beautiful situation, you still have the need, so you have to apply the energy in finding it or creating it. Like how could you be good association for others around you, and perhaps bring some like-minded people around you if you're not finding that in the devotees that are there. So yeah, just stopping those thoughts, really. I mean, it's just who they are, and you just respect them from a distance. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be in their company if it doesn't nourish your bhakti. It's fine. There's no pressure for you to do that. You need association. Seek it out. How are you going to find that? Now, with where we are on the internet with all the Zoom, it's not the same kind of association, but you can seek out like-minded association through classes people are giving, and there's a lot of sanghas online. Just ask Krishna to send to you your association. Ask him to help you find it, locate it. When we're sincere, when we really ask, it might take some time to respond, but Krishna will respond to you. He responds to sincerity. I was thinking, and as I said the word sincerity, I was remembering that B.R. Sridhar Maharaj said, sincerity is invincible. Nothing will get in the way of sincerity. Krishna will always respond to a sincere soul. And I think it's important, obviously, and you know that's why you're bringing this up. Association of devotees is extremely important on the path of bhakti. It's very, very important for our progress. So here you are in a situation where you are currently lacking some of what you had. Ask Krishna to help you. And just don't think the thoughts about, just respect at a distance. They're just not your people. And maybe there is one person there. If you opened up, maybe somebody there is somebody you could relate to. But maybe not in the group, I don't know. Yeah.
Can I ask a related follow-up question?
Sure.
What if you see a devotee and they're acting in a way that you feel like is maybe hurting other devotees? Is that considered criticism?
No, that's honesty and intelligence and discretion. You don't take it further and therefore think ill of the devotee, but you have intelligence and discretion. It needs to be used, and then every situation is individual, so I can't speak to exactly what you're referring to, but if you have any ability to speak to that person and explain how that it might be harmful to another devotee, maybe they weren't even aware of it. And then again, if somebody's like, maybe if you encounter real fanaticism, you're not gonna change a fanatic, really. But maybe you could talk to the person who you feel they're doing damage to and just say, how are you doing with that? And what do you think about that? How is it sitting with you? Maybe open up a conversation. Yeah. Depends. Each situation will depend. Is that all right, Osea? Anything else?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Madhurikshana says, and this will be the last question, can you please explain more of respecting all living beings in verse 3? It's blocked. We have another teaching as no asat sangha, so it's a bit confusing. Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, well, respecting everyone doesn't mean that we associate with them intimately. We're advised not to associate intimately with those opposed to Krishna. So we're not going to exchange loving exchanges necessarily in a deep way, but that doesn't mean we're disrespectful in any way. We're to respect every living being, everything. This is Krishna's creation, and each soul belongs to Krishna and is loved by Krishna. So, does that help, Madhurikshana? She's muted and without her video on. Hare Krishna. Anything else? shall we end our time together today and pick up next week? Hare Krishna. Oh, Mimi, I don't know what you're asking. You said, "Can you please send this text? So beautiful." I have no idea what you're referring to. Then Miguel, the tip of thinking about how Krishna would feel if you call. Okay, nice. Yeah, Mimi, you could write to me because I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Okay.
So Mataji, can you send that prayer that before chanting you said?
Okay.
Chris.
Yes, I can send that. I can send that
Last
to the
time
WhatsApp.
also it was wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send that to the WhatsApp group. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining me and supporting my effort to speak about Krishna and serve you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Be well.
Hare Krishna.
Till next week, my obeisances. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Oh.
Hare Krishna.